So in today's video, we are going to be discussing the Dallas Cowboys and the fact that the Dallas Cowboys have major problems. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's just get right into the video. Now, I'll be the first one to admit I'm not a Cowboys fan. Anytime the Cowboys do something that's really stupid, I will be the first one to laugh at it. Anytime it's really fun as an NFL fan to laugh at the Cowboys. I know Cowboys fans hate it, but that's the one thing that every other franchise can get behind and rally behind is laughing at the Dallas Cowboys. Even us Chiefs fans, Raiders fans, Chargers fans, Broncos fans, we can all rally together and we can all laugh at the Dallas Cowboys. But the Dallas Cowboys have major problems that just seem to be constantly coming about this entire offseason, and it seems to be a never-ending issue with the Dallas Cowboys right now. So let's just start with trading Amari Cooper to the Browns. Now, I thought this was a really dumb move. Yes, Amari Cooper, by his standards, had a very down year. But his down year really wasn't the worst thing I've seen in the NFL. 68 receptions, 865 yards, and still had 8 touchdowns. Yes, it was down from his 92 receptions, 1,114 yards, and 5 touchdowns he had last year. But Amari Cooper is still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And I don't know why they got rid of him. Now, I think Jerry Jones himself, which we'll talk more about Jerry Jones in a little bit, I think Jerry Jones was trying to justify himself and make himself feel better about the contract that he gave Amari Cooper. Now, I think Amari Cooper, in a way, is still deserving of the contract and the money that he's being paid, $20 million. I think he still earns that money, but I think Jerry Jones simply wanted to put blame at somebody's feet for how the season ended. And for some reason, Amari Cooper got that blame, which makes no sense to me. And it was a bad business move by the Cowboys because they didn't get anything returned. They got a 5th round pick for Amari Cooper. And on top of that, they are expecting CeeDee Lamb to become a number 1 wide receiver. They're signing Michael Gallup, who is coming off an ACL injury. So the Cowboys are making moves that personally don't make any sense. And if I'm a Cowboys fan, this is one thing I can kind of sympathize for them. Why would you get rid of Amari Cooper? He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. Him and Dak really do have a nice connection going on in Dallas. Yes, it was an off year, but I will never understand an owner or a GM in this situation. It just happens to be the same person moving off of a guy just because of one bad year. It's not like he's a running back. You know the production that Amari Cooper can have, and he does it on a consistent basis. One bad year for Amari Cooper I don't think is fair, and his bad year wasn't even that bad. He didn't play all the games. If he plays all the games, I think it's safe to say Amari Cooper could have been an 80 reception, 1,000-yard receiver. And I think if he plays every game, none of this happens to Amari Cooper, but I just don't think it's fair what Jerry Jones did to Amari Cooper, scapegoating him for the season that they had. Yes, his numbers were kind of like wide receiver 2 level numbers, but I think there are a million different teams. I think every team in the NFL, apparently other than the Cowboys, would have loved to have taken Amari Cooper's production. Who cares that his reception yards were down? He can produce touchdowns, 8 touchdowns. That's amazing for a receiver. So I don't know. I think it was a very bad move by the Dallas Cowboys to move off of Amari Cooper and blame him. Yeah, he missed games because of COVID and everything else, but really, that was a very bad move, and I think it was really dumb. And then you have the contract issues with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. Now, I don't want to bash on Dak Prescott because his numbers are absolutely insane. His numbers were good. 4,449 yards, 37 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Those are some fantastic numbers. But 1-3 in the playoffs and getting more money than a guy that made it to 7 Super Bowls. Yes, I know Tom Brady takes a hometown discount everywhere he goes, but he won 7 Super Bowls. And the fact that Dak Prescott was getting paid more than that for a guy that won 1 playoff game, I think is baffling, and it's just mind-blowing that the Cowboys contract situation. Now, this isn't a bash on Dak Prescott. Take your money. You can't blame a guy for taking a money. If Jerry Jones is dumb enough to give you the money, take the money, run with it. But the contract just doesn't seem to justify itself, especially, again, how the season ended. They didn't even win a playoff game with Dak making that much money. And it's kind of sad for Dak because in the playoffs when it mattered, like regular season stats are nice and everything. Look at Kirk Cousins. But if you can't produce in the playoffs, he had CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, Cedric Wilson, who Cedric Wilson is now gone from the team. So it seems like the Cowboys have zero interest in becoming a better football team and helping the guy that they're paying a whole bunch of money, because Dak Prescott, I don't know, can elevate a receiver. But you have to, if you're going to pay a guy that much money, you have to be willing to surround him with talent. And getting rid of Amari Cooper was really dumb for Dak Prescott and bad for Dak Prescott's career. But again, don't want to bash on Dak. He had amazing stats in the regular season. But again, I think he's a bit overpaid at his position. And coming from a Chiefs fan who people were hating on because of Mahomes' contract, his contract, every single day that passes by, his contract looks better and better every single day. And then you have Ezekiel Elliott's contract. I have no idea what Jerry Jones was thinking giving Ezekiel Elliott that contract. And they are still paying for it. Literally, they got rid of Amari Cooper before they got rid of Ezekiel Elliott, who I think Tony Pollard is better than. And I don't know why I'm getting so passionate about the Dallas Cowboys, but I just think Jerry Jones is a really dumb owner right now. And we'll get into Jerry Jones in a little bit. You have Zeke, who I think, if I look at this correctly, is set to make $12 million this next season for a running back. And not just a running back since his rookie year has literally gotten worse in production every single year. He went from 108 rushing yards per game all the way down to 58. I don't know what running back in this world deserves to be paid $58 million, but then they release and trade Amari Cooper. Like, you would trade away Amari Cooper and keep a running back, a position that nobody wants to pay. Nope. Like, Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, I think are the two most special running backs in the NFL. Derrick Henry. Like, those three guys, I understand paying because they're different. You're never going to find a guy like those three guys again. But Ezekiel Elliott, whose production has literally declined every single year, has gotten worse every single year. And to sign him to a 6-year, $90 million contract for a running back. I know on paper contracts don't matter, but it's fun to overreact to contracts. But and Zeke Elliott, he literally looks like every time he touched the football last year, he looked like he was hurt when he was running the football. Like, Zeke never once looked right and looked like a guy that looked like he can run with the football and do it on a consistently good basis. He always looked like he was struggling to run the ball. And I think Tony Pollard is by far better. So if you look at the offense, they're in a terrible spot. Amari Cooper, gone. Michael Gallup, coming off an injury, is the guy they chose over him. Ezekiel Elliott is way overpaid, and I think Tony Pollard is better than Ezekiel Elliott, yet they got rid of Amari Cooper instead of Ezekiel Elliott. So the offensive side of the ball is a mess, and I think the Cowboys just wanted to blame somebody for the terrible season and how it ended. And then you just have the defensive side of the ball, which is just an absolute hilarious situation for the Dallas Cowboys. They had Randy Gregory on board, and because of the terms of the contract that they gave him, he dipped and he went to the Broncos, which is just absolutely hilarious. I hate it because now we have to face him twice a year, but this just shows that the Cowboys are in desperate need of changes that I don't think Jerry Jones is going to do, because not only that, there's a chance they're going to lose out on Zadarius Smith, they're not going to get Von Miller, and they're not going to get Chandler Jones. So they missed out on ways to improve on this defense, all because of the contract language that they gave Randy Gregory. Now, Randy Gregory's never played a full season. I get that. He's never really produced those high number of sacks that, top players get. But at the same time, a guy and Randy Gregory, who seemed to have always want to be there, they just seemed to screw him over. And then you look at DeMarcus Lawrence, who they basically lowballed to begin with. Stephen Jones lowballed him, apparently. And I'm just thinking, it's like, are you actively trying to kill your own franchise? I don't understand what the Dallas Cowboys are doing with their defense. It just seems like that the Cowboys are actively trying to kill their own franchise. And why would you? So to lowball DeMarcus Lawrence, that doesn't make any sense. They were able to retain him, luckily, because if they lost him, I don't know what the Cowboys would have been able to do. That would have been a catastrophic loss for the Cowboys. Like, he literally had one foot out the door because of that. So the Cowboys are lucky to retain him. And then we get to the biggest problem with the Dallas Cowboys, and that's obviously Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones needs desperately to take a step back and not be the GM of the team. He is way too emotionally attached, and he gets way too emotional after specific situations go down. You look at the playoff loss. For some reason, it feels like Amari Cooper got blamed for that. And even if I'm wrong, I'm going to stick by that because that's just how I feel. Amari Cooper got blamed for that. Well, he's praising his quarterback and he's praising his offensive coordinator for that hideous play that they ran at the end of the 49ers game to end their season. And yet they're still trying to find ways to justify doing that. And it makes absolutely no sense to me. And then you add on to the drama that apparently he has a biological kid that he paid somebody to be silent and not talk about. And again, he's way too emotional. He needs a GM desperately. He needs to take a step back and not be the owner's GM anymore because it doesn't help them. Because I don't think the Cowboys with Jerry Jones as both the owner and the GM are ever going to get back to a Super Bowl because he makes moves that don't make sense and are way too rash. And he gets too emotional making those decisions. He overpaid for Dak. He overpaid for Zeke. He needs to rework those contracts instead of blaming everything on Amari Cooper, who now Dak Prescott's going to suffer because of it. He continues to praise the coaching staff that cost them their season after running that dumb play. And I think the Cowboys, honestly, they're in a very bad spot right now, and they're losing Lyle Collins. So the Cowboys are not better off right now than they were at the start of free agency. And they weren't able to land any of the top free agents that they wanted. And instead, they just lost all the key players and are honestly on track they honestly could at this point be a team that loses their division because their owner's inability to get out of his own way.